You're listening to Parasearch Radio with paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web at Parasearch Radio. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the KTPF REload Show. In case you're wondering what the REload Show is about, if you haven't heard previous shows, these are the interviews that were conducted by good friends of mine, Steve and Sue Taggart, in the days of the KTPF radio show. Their own radio show ran for just over 4 years, broadcasting every week for over 3 hours. I joined them in the last 18 months of the show's run, but eventually the guys felt they'd just about had enough. It was a monumental effort to keep broadcasting every week for 3 hours. It was a wonderful show. But unfortunately they're no longer involved, and the shows have just sort of sat in the archives, so I thought it would be nice to bring them back to life and bring you the interviews that the guys conducted over those 4 years. They include some of the most interesting people within the world of the paranormal and some not so well known but still, nevertheless still very interesting. We even have 1 or 2 rather unusual shows, including a live seance and other things along those lines. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show, and this is the KTPF REload Show. Enjoy.
This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience. They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. But welcome to the show, another evening at the KTPF. Well, it's all about the unknown, and at the moment, this is being unknown. Anyway, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show. The show that one of our listeners said is like sitting down for coffee with a group of friends. So grab your coffee. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And we're here keeping the paranormal friendly on. For those of you who are new to the show, the KTPF was started by Steve and I back in 2007. And our mission was to try and bring the paranormal world together. In 2012, we decided to have a chat room with a difference, inviting you to engage in a live friendly discussion with our special guests and various investigating groups from around the world. So what's on the show tonight? Via Skype, which is Richard Thomas from Swansea, who has been asking, have you ever wondered how ghosts work? Plus telling us about the alternatives to the extraterrestrial hypotheses. So just to let you know about Richard, Richard is a writer of non-fiction books, magazine articles and newspaper columns. He has written articles on a wide range of subjects for the South Wales Evening Post, Swansea Life, Alien World, UFO Matrix, Mindscape, Paranormal Magazine and many other publications. And you can read articles for Neonatal by visiting neonatal.com and searching for Richard. Richard Thomas. Right, okay. He says he's a bit nervous, but I'm sure we'll welcome him okay.
Oh, yes. Don't be noticed.
We're ringing. Aha. Do we have contact?
Hello.
Hi, Richard. I had a bit of a Skype problem before we started the show, so I'm hoping it behaves itself. But if push comes to shove, I do still have your landline number if it hasn't changed. Okay.
Right, okay. Well, I'm in a different house.
Oh, right, okay. In that case, it won't be okay. If we do have problems, just just quickly write your number or something on the message thing and I'll ring you. Anyway, welcome to the show again. It's been a while since we've had you on.
It's nice to be back.
Good. And there's no need to be nervous. You should know that. It's a relaxed show. Basically, last time we had you on, we were talking about what you did. So just briefly for the new people that's listening, can you introduce yourself and tell the members in the chat room what you do and why you're interested in the paranormal?
Okay, well, I suppose my interest started when I was a kid. My dad had a lot of books about the paranormal and things like that. And when I was a teenager, I saw a UFO, or what I think was a UFO, and I started buying my own books about UFOs and studying it. And a couple of years after that, I started writing a column for a website called Paranormal of America, and that led to writing for magazines, and eventually I had enough material to put a book out called Paranews.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
that's about it, really. I've started writing for another website now called Neon Metal.
Right, okay. Now, I've picked up a couple of your articles here. So the first one, which will be quite good and interesting for our ghost hunters and investigators in the chat room. Have you ever wondered how ghosts work? What's that all about, Richard?
Well, I've become a bit skeptical, really, about the idea that ghosts are the spirits of the dead. But I definitely believe that people see things that they can't explain.
Yeah.
You know, apparitions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just I needed a topic to write about, so I started writing about that.
Yeah.
And I came up with a list of different theories that I've heard over the years that are alternatives to this spirits of the dead explanation. But they're not skeptical theories. It's not like I'm saying that it's just hallucinations or anything like that. These are ideas that are just as paranormal and fantastic as the idea of life after death.
Well, I must admit, as an investigator myself, as well as my husband, we've been doing it now for 7 years, and not a lot has happened. You know, you get the odd knocks and bangs and that, but nothing you can actually say is really put your finger on it and say it's paranormal. So it'd be interesting to know what you've got to say about these things.
Yeah, we're starting to think that it's actually the people that are actually with you at the time that is actually causing it.
Yeah. So you've got here psychic powers. What's your theory on that?
Well, it's not really my theory. This
Okay.
is other people's theories that I've heard about and I've included in the article. Well, that breaks down into two basic ideas. The first one is that it's the people themselves causing things to move around, poltergeist activity. That it's their own like psychic powers, basically, that's doing it. That they're unaware of. If you can follow that.
Yeah.
That's one theory, but kind of I included it in the same part of my article is this other idea, because I interviewed the former editor of Paranormal magazine, Richard Holland, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And when he was a kid, he had a poltergeist at his house.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him what he thought it was, because, is it the spirit? Was it the spirit of a dead person, or did he think it was like this psychic powers idea? And he said he didn't think it was either. He thought it was something it was an entity, but it wasn't a human entity. It was more like an alien from another dimension or something like that.
Yeah.
That was using human thoughts. It was somehow using our ideas to take form in this reality. It's a hard idea to explain, but because we believe in ghosts, it manifested as a ghost.
Yeah.
If you follow me. But the idea could also explain UFO sightings and things, because if you go, perhaps some UFOs are the same phenomena taking place, but there's a belief in that area of UFOs rather than ghosts.
Yeah.
So perhaps they take the form of, flying saucers, grey aliens, things like that.
So going back on your, like, how a ghost works and that, if somebody was to say to you, they've seen their granddad sitting at the foot of their bed or something and maybe spoken to them, what is your research or whatever do you think about that?
It's actually quite a common thing to happen, what you just explained. I think probably most people experience something like that after a relative dies, grandfather or something like that. I would first try to explain it through, just a normal psychological explanation. They're thinking about their grandfather that's just passed away.
Yeah.
I would explain it like that myself. I know it sounds very it's sort of hard and sort of scientific, but I think you have to be when you're trying to study this subject.
Yeah.
But the really interesting case is when somebody says that to you is the people that see their grandfather at the edge of the bed or in a dream or whatever it is, and they've passed away without the person knowing. You see that? So then it becomes interesting because then you can't explain it as a simple psychological thing that would probably happen. It becomes a paranormal thing to investigate at that point.
Yeah. David Lloyd, who's in the chat room, nice to see you there, as I said earlier. He's wondering if ghosts and spirits are basically souls without the hindrance of a human body. What do you think to that?
I used to absolutely believe it years ago. It was kind of like something that I just had a belief in, I suppose. But over the years, I've become more skeptical about the idea.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think there's probably life after death, but I don't think they're hanging around on planet Earth for hundreds of years doing the same thing every night. It's what you have to believe if you believe in a lot of these ghost stories. The person is doing the same thing over and over for hundreds of years. It just, if that is what happens after we die, it sounds like a terrible thing. That sounds like some sort of punishment for me.
Yeah.
Well, I would call that a ghost, which to my mind is basically a bit like the stone tape theory. They're just doing what they always did, and we can't contact them. I would consider a spirit to be something completely different.
What's your theory on the stone tape theory?
Well, because of what I just said, the idea that a ghost would do the same thing night after night for hundreds of years, that sounds like, to me it sounds like a recording.
Yeah.
I don't think that those kind of ghosts, or whatever you want to call them, are intelligent. I don't think they have any, they're just a recording. They're like something that you've tape recorded or you've got on your record on your skybox or whatever. See, I don't think that you could communicate with them. I think they're just some form of psychic recording that we're playing in our minds.
But there are some that you can seem to interact with. What do you think that is?
They're the ones I would say are actual spirit.
You think they're actual spirit that you can interact with? Yeah. That's the way we look at it. Ghosts and spirits are two different things.
I mean, that's assuming that with our own energy, we're not actually creating an entity ourselves.
I was just going to say something like that. How do you know that we're not? They seem to have. I know what he's talking about. They seem to have information that only the dead person or someone close to the dead person would have.
Yeah.
But, so you've got to, like mediums, when they communicate with spirits, now they well believe that that's what they're doing. Now, but is it really what they're doing, or are they somehow unknowingly picking up on information from the living?
Yeah.
Psychically, or something like that.
Yeah. Ace Paradox has said that he must be lucky. He's witnessed several incidents which he believes are paranormal, but recording evidence is important. He said his belief is a ghost or spirit haunts for a reason, and he also believes time stands still for the spirit.
Right.
What's your reaction?
Well, I hope time stands still for the spirit if he's going to be here, until he's done whatever it is he has to do. Because otherwise, it's I certainly wouldn't want to come back as a ghost.
No.
I'd much rather be reincarnated or go off to heaven or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But how would you explain situations that people are actually seeing loved ones hundreds of miles from where they should be just before they die?
Oh, crisis ghosts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think that could be... I think we're dealing with more sort of a telepathic connection between the living rather than the dead coming back to haunt us. Because I think what this connection is as the person is dying or about to die. So it's a connection with a living person rather than a dead person.
Mm.
I think there might be cases of just after the person has died. So maybe it's something I like to think about is perhaps the mind or consciousness sort of lingers around for a while, and I suppose that is a ghost, a traditional ghost. But how long this consciousness hangs around for, I don't know. I don't think it would last hundreds of years. Do you know, like when a body dies, it takes time for the cells and things to all die.
Yeah. David Lloyd has asked, he said that if we have a soul each, and when we die, our souls leave the body, could it be they all go where they're supposed to, but some don't reach where they're supposed to go?
I suppose it could be.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to think about. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
I guess it really, how to answer that, it comes down to what your belief system is.
Mm.
Whether you believe, that there's a God or whatever somewhere that sort of makes sure everyone ends up in the right place.
Mm.
I suppose if you're someone who doesn't believe in God, but you still believe in the idea that, life after death and so forth, then something like that could happen.
Yeah. So, and another theory that we've had before is that maybe we've crossed over, or vice versa, into their frequency, so to speak, like a bit of a slip. You know what I mean?
Like another dimension.
Yeah, another dimension.
And as far as they're concerned, we're the ghosts haunting them.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I always liken it to the film The Others. I don't know whether you saw that one. But,
yeah, I've seen that film.
Yeah. Where, we're thinking that she's the old people are the ghosts and it's actually her. But I'm wondering whether it's possible to actually interact sometime, and that's why you're seeing the spirit. But it also one other thing that I've always been fascinated by is going on to your next subject is the theory that whenever you see a UFO, people are seeing ghosts. Are we seeing ghosts? Or are we seeing entities or extraterrestrials? Sometimes they say even people think that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial, etc., etc. What is your theory on that?
Well, I suppose the best way to explain it is I don't have one theory that I think explains what UFOs are. I think UFOs are lots and lots of different things.
Yeah.
People have sort of put them all in this UFO box when really they're just things that we can't explain.
Yeah.
One idea is the one I was trying to explain earlier. This idea that there's other entities or whatever you want to call them in another dimension or frequency, whatever word you want to use, and they're using our thoughts to take a form in this reality. I'm working on a book at the moment called Alien Invaders, and I'll be looking at alternative ideas to UFOs. I thought it might be fun to call one chapter The Bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what they're doing. They're building bodies from our thoughts somehow.
Yeah.
And then, and perhaps this lasts for a few minutes or whatever it is, and then they sort of disperse, and it looks like they've just disappeared, which is often what you, in ghost sightings and UFO sightings, and some Bigfoot sightings as well, you know, it just disappears.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to UFOs, we all kind of jump to the conclusions that they're extraterrestrials, and obviously that is not necessarily so. But I find it interesting that whenever there's a sighting of a UFO, we tend to get other sightings of other paranormal entities in and around the same area.
Yeah, which would support this idea that I'm trying to explain. Now, it's a hard idea to sort of get. Once you get your head around it, then it perhaps it would make a lot of sense.
So where do you hope to go with this idea about the how ghosts work?
I'm not sure really. The problem is, I think for a lot of people, if you say that ghosts are not the spirits of the dead, to them that sort of makes you a skeptic.
Yeah.
Automatically assume that you're just debunking everything and saying that it's all nonsense. Well, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's something that's completely different to what we think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I read something earlier today that would seem to suggest that maybe a lot of the so-called UFOs are actually ourselves, some alternate path that they like. Say, for instance, that the Cuban Missile Crisis, they were actually ahead of us, and they've come back to stop us from making that mistake. So now our path has been changed.
Yeah, that's one of the ideas I looked at in one of the articles I wrote, is the idea that they're us from the future. And that might explain some of the 1950s contactee stories. These were sort of before abductions, and they were the beings that were on board flying saucers weren't these grey guys that we're familiar with today. They were just human beings, you know, wearing sort of like Star Trek uniforms often. That kind of thing.
Yeah, David Lloyd says that
like people from the future.
Yeah, he agrees with everything you're saying. He feels the same way. He's got the same thought. Sometimes our thoughts seem to come from left field, as if not our own. He said we're all energy, and when the energy dies, we're still energy in a different form.
Yeah,
that's what he says.
Yeah, when the body dies, we're still energy. Yeah.
Now, you're going on to talk about the alternatives of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I always get problems with that word. Hypothesis. Now, what's this all about, Richard?
Well, I suppose it's the same as ghosts, really, as I'm believing UFOs, but I'm becoming more and more skeptical about... Well, not really. I do believe some UFOs are aliens from elsewhere, but I don't think all of them are. I think a lot of them are something else.
I find it weird that the Americans get a lot of sightings more than we do.
I think a lot of the American ones are actually their own government.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. Nazi Germany had flying saucers at the same time. So did America. So I think they've a lot of it is their own people just experimenting with new craft.
Yeah, the good book to read on that is The Hunt for Zero Point. Nick Buck. That's the book to get on that theory, that it's all black projects that the Americans are funding.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is that, and that's why you get a lot of sightings in America, usually in the Southwest, where they do a lot of testing, because, you know, that area is sparsely populated.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with America is every time we try and come to terms with what's being done, you automatically get labelled as a conspiracy nut.
This is it.
Well, you know, sticks and stones.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't worry. If you're worried about people calling you names, then don't
In the
don't
right field.
research any of this stuff.
Yeah, you're in the wrong field. Right, you go on to say that most of the sightings after the war continued, obviously, and first in the form of the ghost rockets that menaced Sweden in 1946, and most famously the flying saucers that invaded the United States in 47.
Yeah.
Now,
That was H.G. Wells having a go.
was it H.G. Wells having a go? So what is it about these that you do you think these were actually UFO? Well, supposedly extraterrestrial from another planet.
Yeah, what I was trying to get at that point was, in that article, was it wasn't until about 1950 that people started, people use terms like flying saucer, but flying saucer didn't mean alien spacecraft like it does today until about 1950. Because that's when a book was written by Donald Kehoe.
Yeah.
And that was, I think he did a magazine article first, and then that was popular, so he turned it into a book. That's when people started, flying saucers meant alien spacecraft. Before then, flying saucers meant either secret American aircraft or something the Russians were making. Or perhaps the Nazis had developed, and perhaps the Nazis had survived the war, and perhaps they had a base somewhere that we didn't know about. You see, so what I was trying to get at is that UFOs does not mean alien spacecraft.
No.
Because it's an important thing to bring up, because have you heard the footage of when the Roswell crash? Today we recovered a flying saucer and that kind of stuff.
Well, bits of it, yeah. I know basically the story.
Yeah, because they always play that in documentaries, and it sounds like the Americans are admitting that they've got an alien spacecraft. Because today flying saucer means alien spacecraft, but back then it didn't mean that at all. It just meant these mysterious objects, but people thought they were probably made by human beings.
Yeah.
What I was trying to get to really was that in that article was that UFO seems to be, it's Earth-based rather than something from outer space.
Yeah.
Most of the sightings happen on Earth. We have got some astronauts that have seen some strange things in outer space, but the vast majority of it is Earth-based. And whatever it is, 90% of it is coming from this planet. It's not coming from elsewhere. But that doesn't mean that some of it has something that's as incredible as UFOs, like perhaps as alien spacecraft. Perhaps some of them come from another dimension. Perhaps some of them are time travelers.
Yes, I noticed here that you mentioned about quantum physics and the possibility of the alien craft being time machines from the future.
Yeah, because there's a book out, I can't remember the title, UFOs in Wartime or something like that. Apparently there is a spike of UFO sightings during times of conflict. So, maybe these are people from the future that are trying to alter history in some way to make sure these conflicts, don't end up in nuclear wars or something like that.
Yeah. And talking about Roswell, we're actually trying to get somebody on the show to talk about the Rendlesham incident, which actually happens in our own country. So hopefully we'll get a theory on that one as well, but see what happened with that. So
yeah, that's an interesting case.
Yeah.
The thing you want to look at, I suppose if I was going to write an article on that, the thing I would look at would be the idea of mind control, brainwashing. Some of these people had were involved in some sort of mind control experiment to make them think that they'd seen this unusual, craft or whatever. Perhaps there even was a craft, and they were, high on drugs at the time. But
this is it.
Or something. I know that sounds crazy, but the Americans have admitted to doing these kind of experiments at one time, anyway.
Yeah.
They would put LSD in people's coffee and see what it would do to them, and things like that.
Yeah. So basically, it's not just ghosts, is it? And extraterrestrials. You're also including demons and fairies. So where does that part come into it?
Well, if these are... I suppose what I was trying to say is that demons and fairies and aliens might actually be different names for the same phenomenon, that they're not, they're not literally fairies and they're not literally aliens. They're taking the form of those beings because that's what people believed in at the time. You see? So it's to do with that idea I was trying to explain about perhaps beings from another dimension manifesting, that they're using our thoughts to take form. So if one of them was sort of to appear in the Middle Ages, perhaps they would take the form of a demon, or perhaps an angel, because people were more into religion at that time. That's what they believed in. If they appeared in the 1950s, films like War of the Worlds coming out, science fiction was big at the time, so they take the form of Martians, alien beings, and now we're sort of quantum physics is big at the moment. I think so. Perhaps they start to take sort of more because the Greys have become sort of more, I don't know what the word I want to use, interdimensional, spiritual, where they become sort of less physical than they were when they sort of first appeared in around about, the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case. They were sort of more like, they sort of behaved more like human beings at that time. Sort of explorers going off. But later on in the 80s and now into the millennium, they've sort of become less like us and sort of more... It's hard to... I think you get what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, we're more conditioned to actually think of them as being more alien-like rather than like us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've become stranger. That's the word. And so that sort of indicates that our thoughts are having some sort of impact on what they are in some sort of way. But as our beliefs change about what they are, they're changing as well. So I think that they are somehow using our thoughts to manifest you.
Yeah.
You see, and that's the only way I could explain something like that. Of course, the other explanation could be that they don't exist at all. It's just mythology, and as the mythology evolves, people's stories change. So that would be the skeptical explanation. So then that wouldn't explain, physical traces, radiation left at UFO sightings, like at Rendlesham, for instance. That's a case where, that's one of the things that sort of indicates that something definitely did happen there that was real, is the radiation left behind.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, what do you think of the connection with UFOs and crop circles?
It's one of those things that I haven't really looked into it a great deal.
You haven't looked into that one?
I haven't really looked into it a lot. I think it's... One idea that sort of interests me is that... it's... I don't really know it. It's hard to say. But if I was going to look into it, I'd look into the idea that perhaps this is... not aliens at all. It's human beings that are doing this, but not just the guys that are, that you see on TV doing that, doing it with wooden boards and things. Perhaps this is, part of a secret space program, using, I don't know what you'd call them, lasers or whatever in outer space to create these things. Why, I don't know.
Yeah. But everyone's got their own theories, haven't they, really?
I mean, it just seems weird with them because some of the designs are so intricate and seen from above, some of them even look like circuit boards and stuff.
Yeah, but some people say that somewhere along the line somebody is clever enough to do them. So
some are, but I can't believe that some of the bigger ones and the intricate ones are done in one night.
I do think it's
just
more
too much work.
Guys with the boards.
Yeah. Ghost Rider says, I think we are not the only living beings on in the universe. He thinks there is life on other planets. What's your theory to that, Richard?
I think the only people that would say that there are not, other planets with life at this point would probably be, extreme sort of fundamentalist Christians or whatever. They've got a fundamentalist belief. I think most scientists would say, that the odds are that there is life elsewhere, and the universe is so big that some of it's got to be intelligent. So I don't have a problem with intelligent beings being out there. Yeah. And it is theoretically possible that they could get you. I mean, they just found a planet not that long ago. I think it was only 16 light years away. That's about the size of Earth and the right distance away from the sun, that you could have liquid water there, and intelligent, and therefore intelligent beings. So, and that planet wouldn't have had to have evolved life. It could have been, colonized perhaps, or something like that.
Years and years ago, I remember people saying that everyone had a mirror image, so we must have a mirror image of another planet with everything else going on.
Well, hopefully they're not making the same mess of it as we are.
Probably are.
Yeah. Actually, when you think about it, the universe is infinite. There must be an infinite number of planets just like this one.
Yeah.
And perhaps with tiny little differences, like perhaps right now somewhere deep in space there's another me doing this interview, but he's wearing a different coloured shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I find interesting about the other galaxies idea is that every single one of them seems to have a black hole in the centre of it. So I'm wondering whether that's where we're getting the connection from with different so-called UFOs coming through the wormholes, black holes, connecting with the different galaxies.
Possible.
Black holes are interesting. At the centre of a black hole there's a thing called a singularity, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it's basically a point where there's probably a lot of physicists listening now who'll say that, I'm getting this wrong or whatever. But basically my understanding is that at this singularity, absolutely everything becomes possible. The laws of physics basically go out the window.
Yeah.
The gravity is so intense that there's nothing. There's anything becomes possible at the point of this singularity.
Yeah.
So it's like point zero.
Point zero. Yeah.
You said that earlier somewhere along the line. Somebody said that today. I've heard it.
You've heard it somewhere along the line.
Somewhere today.
So, but do you ever think about? I've often thought about this. There's all these sightings that are said that are going on, yet the powers of be are watching the airspace in case of somebody coming in to attack us or whatever, whichever country it is. And the way I look at it, if they can't see these UFOs, for want of a better word,
entering our
airspace and popping up and what have you, what's going on? They must have some sort of shielding or something, because you're getting all these remarks, and 9 times out of 10 they're saying no, we've not seen anything, or nobody's kicked off with the media and said, my God, we've had a visitor from another planet, But what do you think, Richard? Do you think there could be? Do you think they've already connected with us and just coming in with maybe a cloaking device so they don't get detected?
Well, we have got a thing. Well, the Americans at least have got a thing called the stealth fighter. Remember, which is invisible to radar. So, if the Americans can figure it out, I think the aliens or whatever is flying these things would be something similar. And another thing, I think obviously the people that are at the radar stations or whatever, they're not aware of any sort of cover-up or anything like that. unless they're told just to, don't tell anyone about this. This is top secret, and that's about as far as it goes with them in terms of what they know. But I think at higher level, they know a lot more about what these UFOs are than what we're being told.
Yeah. I mean, from a radar point of view, they'll just see a blip on the radar screen or something moving rather quickly.
And it's easy to say that, fine, we'll have an official investigation, and they have the investigation and say, oh, well, it was just a flock of birds.
Yeah.
And people, I think, are inclined to believe, especially military people, they're inclined to believe that sort of explanation other than something sort of fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a cover-up is a lot easier than sort of people make it out to be.
Yeah. Ghost Rider's come back with a question for you. Quite an interesting question, actually. What does your guest think, meaning you, Richard, of people who think they are not from this earth and are here to observe and learn from us? Or I know somebody who actually believes he's from another planet and doesn't feel as though he fits in with this world, this earth. What's your theory to that?
Well, this is sort of an odd take on it, but if you look at religion, then it's filled with sort of figures, for lack of a better term, people that weren't from this world, but they came from elsewhere.
Yeah.
People like, Jesus is probably the obvious example, because we're living in, a country with a Christian tradition. But, before that, the Greeks and the Romans had people, like Hercules, for instance, that was a son of a god. So this idea of human beings that have got a connection with the heavens, outer space, whatever you want to call it, is a very old one. And I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it. Now, of course, if a friend said to me that they had an alien or whatever, I'd be very skeptical about it. But as an idea, I'm open-minded to it.
Right. It is I've heard quite a few people say that, actually, to be honest with you. I say of quite a few.
Yeah.
Probably
Arash is the prime example.
Roughly about 5 to 10 people, so that feel as though that either they think that there's something going on, or and then you get those that are talking about lizard people and things like that, don't you?
Well,
so
lizards, praying mantis, and all
praying
sorts.
mantis people, and and these weird people that's supposed to be here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
So
well, that's because if you look into this idea, it's a very old idea.
Really.
Yeah, the idea that the hybrids between, people that are sort of half human and half. The term they used in the ancient world was gods.
Yes.
What is a god? It's an alien, basically.
It's a demigod.
So it's a very, very old idea, and because it's such an old idea, I'm less cynical about it.
Yeah.
Now, but at the same time, it'll take a lot to convince me. If for someone, I'd need DNA evidence or something like that before it's something that I believe about a person.
Yeah.
But it's not something I laugh about. I take the idea that we could have human-alien hybrids, whatever term you want to use, living on the planet.
Yeah.
Is something that I take seriously. That's an idea.
Yeah. So, with all this that you do, what is your best subject so far that you've written on?
I'd say I'm basically a generalist. I kind of go from idea to idea and looking at different things.
Yeah.
I suppose the thing that I'm sort of hooked on at the moment, looking into, is the idea of where humans came from originally.
Yeah.
Is something I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And there's the ancient astronaut idea that, aliens came here millions of years ago and sort of experimented on some apes or whatever that were here, and that sort of resulted in us.
Yeah.
You know, something like, have you seen the new Planet of the Apes film?
I haven't. Have you, Steve?
No.
Or the one
No.
that,
I remember the old ones.
the old ones.
I do wondering whether we, you know, they obviously say we are from apes, aren't we? But, you know.
I'll tell you, I won't spoil the storyline just in case you do see it. But
Okay.
basically, they've changed the story a bit from the old films. Is that humans are experimenting on apes, you know, and they cause some sort of they change the ape's DNA basically that makes them more intelligent,
Yeah.
you know, and I think maybe something like that happened to us millions of years ago. But instead of humans experimenting on apes, it was aliens experimenting on apes, and the result was us, you know. Something like that. Something like that.
Sounds feasible, doesn't it? Does can be feasible. We got the Viscount in. Welcome, Viscount. And he's asking, being a generalist, I'll say it as he's written it, what subjects actually gets your juices flowing? He's a southern Welsh guy like you are. Or I think he is. He's there in South Wales.
He's Irish.
Was he Irish? But he's in South Wales anyway. But he wants to know, being a generalist, which subject really gets your juices flowing?
Well, I don't know what he means by, I suppose...
I think he means journalist.
Journalist.
Yeah, I'm interested in lots of different things. That's what he means. What am I most interested in? What sort of... well, what gets my juices going are sort of... And this will sound terrible, but it's the really outlandish, crazy theories that sort of really fascinate me. These are often ideas that I don't take seriously.
No.
Sort of admire the genius that it took to create them, and come up with these sort of ideas. And sometimes, it doesn't happen often, sometimes I'll come across a really crazy idea that I think is just outlandish.
Yeah.
And I'll start looking into it, and I'll start thinking, well, maybe there is something to this. Maybe it's not exactly that, but maybe there's something similar could be happening. One idea is the idea of a secret space program. I mean, that's something that when I first heard about it, I thought that no, they couldn't do that. They couldn't get away with it. But I think it's quite possible that the Americans could have, bases on the moon and Mars. Now, when I first heard about that years ago, I thought it was outlandish.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at it, have you seen the film 2001, A Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Long time ago.
I mean, that was, written by Arthur C. Clarke, a scientist. He really believed that that's where we would be in 2001 in terms of technology, and we could have been there if the funding had continued. We could have been at the point where we had missions going off to Jupiter's moons and things like that. But the only reason it didn't happen is because of the funding. The official history says that the Americans basically had to pay for the Vietnam War instead. So they sort of, cut the space program. But then you realize that they've spent trillions of dollars on this. It's called the black budget. This is money that they've spent, and they don't know what it was spent on. It was spent on secret programs. So, trillions of dollars, they could have sent a mission to Mars, and they, and set up a colony or something there. It's quite possible. They've had enough time and they've had enough money.
So
that's an idea that I'm seriously,
I think there's a good line in Independence Day where he says, you don't think they spend $1 million on a hammer, do you?
No, this is it.
Yeah.
So, well, we've had a few comments in the chat room while you've been talking, Richard. First one is from, when I can find it again, 2 seconds. First of all, the Viscount wants to thank you for your honest answer, and basically says that he likes the outlandish, your outlandish ideas about that. So he's thanked you for that. I'm just trying to find out where we are.
David Lloyd says about DNA.
David Lloyd said, how come... Oh, God, it's jumped up again. how come people live in the Bible for 800 years or more, and then the DNA upgrades makes it that we only live 70. So there's another theory. And what else have we got? I'm losing him because the chat room's jumping up so quick. His belief, David Lloyd's belief, is that can you read it, baby? Because I've just jumped up.
I believe is that the Anunnaki upgraded primitive humans to mine the gold instead of them doing it themselves. I did ask what the Anunnaki is, but he hasn't come back on that one.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about there. Yeah. Zacharias Sitchin. I think I'm pronouncing his name right there.
Okay.
You know, he wrote a series of books. I think his book was called The 12th Planet. You know, he talked about Nibiru and things like that. Have you heard of Nibiru?
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically he could read Sumerian, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ancient language. There was these tablets found in Iraq, and he translated them. And they talk about the Anunnaki. These were the names for these people's gods. And it sort of tells how they created human beings and things to be, to mine gold and things like that. And his theory was that they were real and that they were aliens that came here, basically. It's very controversial, though, because at the time, not many people could speak this or translate this language, but now a lot more people can, and they say that, he mistranslated this and that. But perhaps he might have got a lot of the details wrong. But I think, perhaps there's something to his core idea.
Yeah. Andy 707 just said the Anunnaki are believed to have descended from the stars, and it was written in Babylonian and Assyrian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Modern day Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was you saying earlier that your next project is about the Planet of the Apes theory?
Oh, I've already written an article on that idea.
You've already done that one?
On Neon Nettle.
Yeah. Okay.
If you go to neonnettle.com and in the search box type in Richard Thomas, they'll see all the articles I've written there.
Right, I'll pop that into the chat room for you. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you've obviously done an article on that now. So, what's your next article then, Richard? Where are you looking at going?
Well, I think I'll probably do... One idea that I have is this... I want to do something on ancient astronauts, basically.
Yeah.
So, I think I'll probably do something about films where they've used this idea.
Hmm.
Two films I definitely write about. One is Prometheus, which is the Alien prequel that came out a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Quatermass in the Pit, which was from 1967.
Yeah.
Classic film.
Yeah. It's on the Horror Channel right now. It's been repeated. If people take a look on that channel, it should come up sometime.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to come and talk to us, Richard. And we really are interested in what you're doing. Bit nosy like that, but no, seriously, everyone needs somebody like you to write these things. Otherwise, we wouldn't know anything or we wouldn't learn anything.
Well, we need people like Richard to make us start thinking about this stuff.
Yeah. So so all power to you, Richard.
Well, as long as I'm doing that, I'm happy, because that's what I try to do with my articles, is get people to think about things,
Okay then, Richard. Well, thanks very much indeed, and hope to speak to you again sometime in the future.
Yeah, that would be great.
Keep posting what you've been posting on our Facebook group, okay?
Okay.
Thanks a lot, my love. Bye.
Cheers, Richard.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, well, that was Richard, all the way from South Wales, and so I hope you enjoyed that interview. So until next time, please join us again on the show, and have a good week. And if you're investigating this Saturday, have a good one, okay? And we'll see you then. Until then, guys, we're keeping the paranormal friendly. Thank you. So good night, and God bless, and Here's the outro.
Hello, Harry Price here. Good evening. If there's nothing myself and everybody else enjoy here on the other side more is the sit back and relax and listen to Parasearch Radio with its paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Make sure to find out more about them on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web, whatever they are, to keep up to date with all their broadcasts throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy them as much as we do over here. Hello? Is anybody there?
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.